Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's Jessica Pancoast, head of the Genesis training team and help desk, and my name is Jason Barnes, and we're here to talk ICD-10 another time with you. And today we're going to start in a different direction than we have in previous ICD-10 webinars. So in the past, we've done a few webinars which have been nearly identical, going over the interface, helping doctors find out which ICD-9 codes they use most frequently, and then teaching them how to not only map them over, but also how to create a set of favorites for those frequently used ICD-9 codes to match up with your ICD-10s so that you can easily find them moving forward. Today we're actually going to go in a different direction to begin with. That direction is with documentation. Now, I want to make sure it's really clear that we are not going to be telling you how to document specific clinical situations, rather how to manipulate our system and make sure that you guys are ICD-10 ready with the note macros or those preset macros for documenting your visits that are so popular with so many of our doctors. If you do have a question during this, I ask that you chat it in. We are keeping everyone else on the line muted, and we will get started with that agenda. Jess, any other questions that have come through on things that people would like us to cover today?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet, perfect. So to start with that, I've got a patient up on the screen. I'm going to go over a brief overview of our travel card again right now. Very colorful, I get that. It looks like the cockpit of a 747. However, everything's pretty useful here. We've got these tabs where my mouse is, and I'm going to make this even just a little bit bigger for everyone. We've got our EMR tab and our diagnosis tab. These are the two things that we're going to focus on today. In your EMR tab, you're going to come into any visit that you want to. I don't care if it's a first visit or a re-eval on their 10th or 12th visit, and you're going to want to do the same things over and over again. If you know what type of diagnosis it is, or you know how you handle a standard re-eval, then you don't want to spend time, or waste time, I should say, doing the same things over and over again. The magic in our system is that we can load a note macro. That note macro is accessed by hitting the note macro button, hitting the load feature, and you'll see choices come up, and this is our demo account, with how you can manipulate the buttons that are already pushed in our system that create the narrative. So in this particular instance, we're looking at a bunch of different macros, and let's just say we're talking about personal injury. If I click on a personal injury note, I can replace the current note, meaning I can add to, meaning I can wipe out everything that's on this particular note and start over again, or I can add it to the current note. With this particular visit, I'm going to cancel out of here. We already have a narrative written, and I will show that right now. This narrative is generated by taking each individual line in our system. And this is the first line for the subjective, where you have an onset date that's chosen in this button, you know, the type of injury, the mechanism of injury. In this one, it was trauma. The next one is the type of pain or discomfort being experienced. There's swelling. We could put stiffness, tightness. I'll add one here. And then we actually go in and try and qualify what type of pain that it is. So in the next button, you can put different things. And as you keep choosing the location, if it's radiating somewhere, you create this narrative. And you can see here, I've actually changed that narrative by clicking a button or two. What we found is that a lot of doctors find it really useful if they have very repetitive either injuries or situations to create prefabbed or pre-hit buttons. That is our note macro. So if you load a note macro, I'll go back in and actually choose one. Our personal injury, I will add to the current note. It will go in and add rows of information that will change the note that you don't have to hit each time. Today, what we're going to be going over is how to go in and edit those so that they include your ICD-10 selections as opposed to just your ICD-9s. First step is you're going to have to know what your ICD-10 mappings are, and we're going to have Jess actually walk us through how to change those macros real time today. So that's the first thing we're going to go over, and after we're done with that, we can actually go over the interface one more time for anybody who would like to stick around and see that. Sound good to you, Jess? Because I have received a couple of emails in the last couple of minutes. Will you be going over the interface?
We've actually, the one question that in the chat is actually, are we going over macros? So we've got people who want both things.
Okay. So we'll do both things today. So in this instance, that's how we're going to start. Jess, anything you want to add to the setup to this?
No, I think we're good to go.
All right. So I'll stop sharing and throw it over to you.
All right. Okay, I should be sharing now. Can you see my screen?
It's coming up, Jess. It's not there yet.
Okay, then I'll wait until it actually comes up.
Yes, thank you. Move your mouse around a little bit. No.
Right.
One more question that Dr. Peter is asking, and I'll just read it. Would you suggest we make an ICD-10 macro and to add to the ICD-9 macros? And my answer to that is yes. You should create an additional ICD-10 version of your ICD-9 macro. There are still some payers out there that are not switching to ICD-10, so I would not get rid of all of your ICD-9 macros.
Right. We have it on the back end, which code actually goes out on the claim. So right now, if you keep both sets in your note, it'll be good regardless of which set the payer is taking.
Yeah, and there's probably some people listening, Jess, that aren't going to be up on that comment just yet, so we can give them some context in a minute or two here.
Okay.
All right, and it's working now. Your screen is sharing, and I got a couple of people confirming that they can see now, so we should be able to get up and running.
All right, so I just went into a different patient so I could blank out the note, start from scratch basically. And this is actually what I do recommend when you're first starting to create no macros is to start with a dummy patient. When you save a note macro, it's going to save every button that you've clicked. So you want to make sure that the buttons that you're clicking are only the ones that you want to save. That's why I recommend a dummy patient rather than an actual patient that you're doing a full note on. So to get started, macros can be one specific tab, like you can just create a subjective macro or an objective assessment, whatever tab in this note you want, or it can be all or any combination of them. When you get started, you're going to come in to the tab you want to work on, and you want to fill in. Yeah.
I've got to interrupt you for just a moment. I don't know if you're going to get to this, but I just want to make sure that if anyone is practicing this on a dummy patient, they do have to use that patient who has the fake ICD-10 payer with it, correct?
Actually, I'm not sure if they do anymore because we are actually showing the ICD-10 field for all of them.
Okay.
So the only difference is they wouldn't get the crosswalk. So that's it. Actually, but you did make me think of something. Before you get started, you guys probably want to save a blank note macro. We actually had one saved. That's how I blanked out my note really quick. When you're working on creating different macros, you always want to start from scratch when you're starting to work on the next macro for the next situation. And rather than having to come in here and click into each box and hit clear all and clear out all the stuff that you've already entered, it's a lot simpler. First thing you want to do, come in here, having a completely blank note, and then go to Note Macros, Save Note Macro, and fill in the name, blank, empty, whatever you want to call it. That way it's just going to be really fast for you guys to blank out your notes and start working on your next macro. So once you've done that, then you can get started. And what you're going to want to do is you want to fill in the buttons that are the same in the majority of the cases. So if you were working on a macro for neck injuries, you would come in and, you would fill in the location and that type of thing. That's always the same. That means that when you're filling these in for each patient, when you do load that note macro, there are going to be some blanks in your notes that you have to fill in for that specific patient, such as how painful it is and maybe the cause of that particular injury. So the note macro might not be the entire note complete. You click a button and you're done. You're going to have the note macro to help you out to do a lot of the parts of the note that you do the same thing over and over again every time this type of injury comes in that you're trying to fix. That way it's just going to speed up your note and allow you to just fill in those particulars for that one patient without having to manually click each box for those items that are always the same. All right, so let's say, for example, what do I want to do? I know a lot of people like to do the objectives for macros. They want to put in all their tests that they do for their patients. So that one's a pretty simple one to do. You're going to come into the objective tab. You're going to select, one of the tests that you happen to be doing. Hit close. And if you are making a macro for a specific location, you can even fill in that location. Please don't think that these macros that I'm creating right now are going to make sense, because I do not know where these tests are done. But just as an example, you would fill in this type of thing and just keep going down. Just keep going down and selecting all the different types of tests that you would perform. And this one said left leg, so let's actually do a leg. And once you've filled in a good portion of them, you're going to go ahead, once you're done, you're going to go and hit Save Note Macro and give it a name, something that you're going to recognize this macro as, and hit OK. I have had questions in the past. I don't know if you guys noticed when I went into Load Note Macro, we actually have multiple different tabs to divide up all our macros, to make them easier to find. If you just go in there and enter a name, they're all going to show up on one tab, and that's the default tab. If you would like to have multiple tabs like this, when you go in and you hit Save Note Macro, you're going to first give it the name of the tab. So you put in the name of the tab, put a colon, and then put the name of whatever the macro is. If that tab already exists, it'll just take your macro and save that macro on that tab. If a tab does not exist with that name, it will create that tab for you. So that way you can easily divide up those macros, make them easier for you guys to find.
Hey, Jess, 3 people have asked virtually the same question here in a second. They're using our system already, and they're asking, why do I need to create a macro in the first place? The visit just pulls from the last one. What would I do? Why would I need one?
Okay. Do you want to take it, or do you want me to?
I'll go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Most of the time when macros are being added, they are going to be added, if you have a daily note type one, it would be the first time you're doing the daily note for that patient. Again, it's just to fill in the boxes that are most commonly filled in for that first time, and then going on, yes, it's going to pull from visit to visit, and you don't have to keep doing the macros. It's usually the exam, re-exams, and
we find a lot of objective testing. If somebody comes in and has, a certain type of diagnosis or problem, there's usually 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6 tests that need to be done, or scores from an OATS assessment that need to be put in, and these pre-populate those buttons, and you just have to put the results in.
Right. So it's just trying to speed it up. But yeah, once you have these in here, yes, it will pull from visit to visit. So it's not something that you would be using every visit for a patient. You'd load it at once, and then you're
great. Yeah, I think that's it, and I'd encourage any of those people, just to write in if that answered their question or if they have a follow-up question. And one additional question before we move on, those doctors that have ICD-9 macros already in the system, the question is, then they're just looking for clarification here, Jess. All I can do is load my ICD-9 macro, make the change to the ICD-10, and then rename it under a new ICD-10 tab or ICD-10 name, so I know that they're the same macro, save the ICD-10 codes, and the answer to that is yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And that same doctor said, if you're using an EHR, I can't imagine not using a macro. So there are some out there that obviously find it pretty useful. And, tomato, tomato, however you guys want to use the tool for your practice is great. So please continue, Jess.
All right. So just a little heads up, you guys probably already know this, but for those macros, when they come loaded, if they do come loaded with performance no, you guys can just click that full exam button. And even though it doesn't say yes right here, all the lines, right now I only have 3 filled in, they will all show up in the note without having to go into each performed question box and say yes. All right. Let's see. Let's go with the assessment because I know a lot of you are going to be coming in here and editing those macros that already have diagnoses filled in. All right. So let's just put in some codes here. And again, sorry if this doesn't make any sense medically, but all right. So if you do have those macros that have the ICD-9 filled in already, what you're going to do is you're going to use the ICD-10 Diagnosis box to basically change them over to ICD-10s. You can use the ICD-10 button to bring them over. We'll have the GEMS crosswalk for you guys. The last 2 I just added were the 723.1 and the 739.0, so I'm going to go ahead, click on those. I get an M99.00. It's plus. Again, for this one.
For all those who haven't seen the interface before, she's going through it quickly.
Yes, but we will be going over it more.
We will go slower in a little while. We wanted to start for all those docs and clinicians who are looking for this specifically and who were very passionate in requesting this for this week. So.
Right. All right. So the codes I'm looking for are the M99.00, and it's just going to yell at me because I'm trying to add it twice, but that's okay. Okay. Save those. I now have those ICD-10s in my note macro. I'm going to come into my note macro. I'm going to save it. You guys have 2 options. You can save it to the same place that your previous note macro was saved, whether that's the default or whether you actually already have tabs. Or you can create a brand new tab that's just ICD-10 and put all the macros that you're redoing, adding those ICD-10 codes all in one place. Up to you guys. It's just how easy you think it's going to be to find those macros that you need in one place versus the other. And then you're just going to go ahead and name the macro and hit OK, and that's it. You've updated the macro to ICD-10, and you're good to go.
So hopefully no one found that too challenging. But if you didn't see it, didn't get it, and need us to go over it, this is a great time to ask. Because we're here, we're happy to do it, and I'm getting a question in right now. So why do you keep saying as you go and not when you're completely done with the note? Can you go over the new tab on the note macro regarding the DX, Medicare, and insurance? Okay. So Dr. Shelley is asking us, why do you keep saying as you go? And I'm not 100% certain what the question is, but I'll just take a stab at it, Jess.
Probably I probably said it when I said you go and save it as you go. You would just be saving it once you're complete each macro.
Each macro, and Dr. Shelley, a lot of the macros are not complete notes. In fact, I would say 30% of the macros saved in the system are for objective testing, where they want to put a list of objective tests that they want to remember to perform each time a specific diagnosis is given. And so, if there is that type of situation and you just want to go in and just create a macro for objective testing, you can do that. It's very popular. Please let me know if that answers your question. And then she asks, can you go over the new tab on the note macro regarding the diagnosis, DX, Medicare, and insurance?
I'm actually not quite sure what she means, the new tab, like the widget?
It could be. It could be just that she's looking for that interface review that we're going to do in a couple of minutes. So Dr. Shelley, if you can confirm that, that would be great. And the next doctor asks, so just to let everyone know, a couple of people who had to join late, yes, we will be posting this. You will be able to see this. It probably will not be posted until the earliest tomorrow, the latest Thursday morning. And Dr. Shelley did say that it answered her question, so that's great. And then I got 3 requests in a row to just do it one more time from the top. So do you mind doing that, Jess?
Sure, not a problem. So I'm just going to go in here and load a blank note. I'm just going to replace my current note. That way, starting off completely blank. When you're going in to save a macro, you're going to fill in only the boxes that you repeatedly fill in with the same information across multiple patients who all come in for the same type of treatment. So like Jason was saying, at least 30%, I would say, of the macros saved in our system are simply a list of all the tests that a practice does. So they come in here, they select the particular test. If there is if a particular test is restricted to a specific location, you can go ahead and fill that in as well. Again, please don't think that my selections are going to make any sense.
Not a doctor, Jess? You haven't figured that part out, huh?
No, haven't just, managed to pick that up by osmosis yet. All right, so once you've selected the buttons that you want to save as one macro, again, it can be on one specific tab or it can be across all of the tabs. You're going to go up and click Save Note Macro and give it a name. If you want to put it on a specific tab, you put the tab name first, a colon, and then the name of the macro. And now I'm going to go back over the assessment part just for the picking of the diagnosis codes for Diagnosis 10 when you're editing a note. Well, actually, it can be for when you're creating it. If you guys don't have macros right now, you can do it for new macros as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and select those same codes again, or maybe not, because I don't remember which was the other one I picked. So I think that might have been it. All right, so now we need to, I don't know about you, but I don't know what the GEMS mapping of these 2 codes are. So I'm going to go to the Diagnosis tab. It's actually going to tell me I already mapped them because it did. But normally, sorry, I didn't remove the ICD-10s. Normally they would be orange and you would click on them and select the code you would want. I actually forgot to remove them, so they are still up at the top. But now that I know what codes I need, I can come into this box. It brings up the same widget, it just doesn't have that GEMS crosswalk. And I'm just going to type in the exact code I want and select it. It's going to yell at me because it's trying to add a duplicate, because when I select it, it tries to add it up at the top again, but it's already there. So that's okay. And then I'm just going to hit save. And now those 2 ICD-10 codes are in my note macro, and I can go up and hit save note macro. Again, if you want all your macros in one place, you can create an ICD-10 tab, just type in ICD-10 : and go ahead and you can name this note macro the same thing it was named before, so you don't have to try to remember a new name or anything. It'll just be on the ICD-10 tab, so you're able to see it and know right away, well, this is on the ICD-10 tab, this is the one with the ICD-10 codes added in.
All right, so I've got a comment and a question. A comment from one of the participants is saying if you could do basically two things, slow down, and because she's having a hard time following the mouse, just say which box you're clicking on at the same time so that they can see what it is. And then the next one is if we've done favorites, right? If you've been to our webinars before, if you've seen our training and you know how to create favorites, they're asking, can I import them into a macro? And actually don't know the answer to that one. Jess, when you're going into the ICD-10 button in the assessment tab, does it bring your favorites up? It
will show the favorites, yes.
So that's a yes. That's a yes. That makes life a little bit simpler.
Yeah, if the favorites are already listed here, you don't have to do the search. If you know, okay, I'm looking for the M990 code and it's down here, you can just click it and add it right that way.
Okay. Perfect.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if there are any other questions as far as the macros are concerned, because the next part of this would end up being us going back into the interface for a bunch.
Well, while people type in any questions they have, I do want to mention one thing. We usually do it. We usually mention this when reviewing macros. When you load a note macro, and just pick one. If I say add macro to current note, it's going to do its best to combine the note with whatever you've already entered. But you guys need to be aware that if you have come in and you have filled in a part of this patient's note and you've used the first line, if you try to load a note macro and select add macro to current note, if that macro also used the top line of the subjective tab, it will replace what you have entered already for that patient. So that is one thing to be aware of when you're creating macros, especially when you're just getting started. We do recommend using the bottom rows to create the macros. That, most of the time bottom rows are not used when you're just filling in a note for a patient. That way, if you do end up having to add a macro to a note that already exists, you have a much less chance of overriding something that you've filled in.
Okay, awesome. There was one question for a process overview, one more time of opening up, let's just say an ICD-9 macro, bringing it in, choosing ICD-10, and then naming it again. And there's actually more than one person that asked for this.
Okay.
So,
I'm actually not sure which of our macros might have codes in them, but let's see. I'm going to go to Note Macros, load.
Yeah, because we're on our test system, and
yeah, let's take a guess. Not actually sure. I'm just going to pick one, and if it doesn't have any codes in there, I'll just stick them in. So let's go to the Assessment tab. Yeah, this one does not. So I'm just going to click on Diagnosis and select some of the codes. And we're going to say, okay, so this is what this macro looks like
right now.
If I had just loaded it. If I had gone in, let's say this is what the macro would look like. I want to now switch this over to ICD-10. Now, because I did not, if I had loaded this as a note macro, I would not have just selected these buttons. They would have come in with the note macro. That means they would not show up in this ICD-9 section up at the top because I did not just click on them. When you click on them, they immediately go up to the top. When you load a note, they don't. But we do have a fast way for you guys to just bring those notes up there, bring those codes up there rather, is to click this up arrow next to the print button and say yes, and the diagnoses that are in the note but that are not up in the billing section will move up there for you. So if you have a number of diagnoses in the assessment section, that's a way to get them all up there in one shot rather than having to go into each one and click it and unclick it, which will be a pain. So that up arrow is going to be your friend. All right, so now I have 2 codes selected. I've moved them up to the top, so they're in my billing section. I'll now go to the Diagnosis 10, ICD-10 tab, and those codes will be listed up at the top left in orange because I have not yet mapped them. I'm going to click on one of those orange buttons. I'm just going to click on the last 2 because those are the 2 I just added. And it's going to give me the mapping, the GEMS mapping to ICD-10. So I'm going to then click on the blue link. I'm going to get a pop-up where I can favorite it or I can add it to my claim. So I'm going to go ahead, click the plus button to add it to my claim. I'm going to do the same thing for the second code and hit the plus button. All right, so now I have my 2 new ICD-10 codes that I just mapped with those for those last 2 ICD-9s I just added. So I'm going to go back to the EMR tab and click on this ICD-10 Diagnosis button. It's going to bring up the widget. And if I had those codes, that M40 and the other M40, as a favorite, it's going to be listed down here at the bottom. In this instance, I don't, so I'm going to go ahead and just start typing in one of the codes I need and hit the search icon. On the right-hand side, I'm going to get the code. I'm going to hit the plus sign again. It's going to yell at me saying I'm trying to add a duplicate. And let's bring up the next one. Search, add it to the top, and then save. So now in this ICD-10 box, I have those ICD-10 codes that I just mapped to the ICD-9s that had previously been in my note. And I can go into Note Macros and hit Save New Note Macro, and then go ahead and save this. Again, if you want it on a separate tab, put in the name of the tab and then a colon, then the name of the macro. Otherwise, if you want everything in the same place, you probably just want to in some way indicate that this is an ICD-10 macro, call it ICD-10 daily, ICD-10 neck, whatever it is that you're creating the macro for. That's going to make it something that you're going to remember.
So just one comment by that one of the doctors that had asked for that was, shouldn't you make it a favorite as well? And for anyone who doesn't know how to make it a favorite, we'll make sure we add. But yes, you should absolutely make it a favorite.
Yeah, if it's something that you're putting in a note macro, then it's probably a code that you use often. So yes, making it a favorite would be a good idea.
All right. Which button was pressed to get the ICD-10 in for this example? You went too fast. So we've got Dr. Rich is asking which button was pressed to get the ICD-10 code in this example.
I'm not quite sure which part he's meaning. I started off by adding ICD-9s and then going to the Diagnosis tab, clicking on the ICD-9s that I added, which brought up the CMS GEMS mapping. I then selected the code there and hit this red icon actually was a green plus sign because I hadn't yet added it. It then moved it to the top portion of my claim so I could see it and know which code I needed. I then went to the EMR tab, went to the box, the really long one. It says ICD-10 Diagnoses if I hadn't already selected a code in there. I clicked on that and just typed in the exact code I wanted. And when I did that, it came up on the left-hand side with the code that I wanted. I clicked on it, and again, I hit the green plus sign to add it.
And you could favorite it as well?
Yep, you favorite right here by hitting the star button. And then I hit save on this page to save the ICD-10s to my note. And then, of course, once my note is complete, note macros and save note macro.
Does that answer the question? I've got a couple more coming through here. All right, so all the questions I'm getting right here, except for Dr. Jeremiah, have to do with they all want to see the interface now. They want to know how it's done. So they're kind of, if you haven't been to any one of these trainings before, I can imagine the cart was definitely put before the horse today, but that was on purpose. So before we move on, any more questions regarding the note macros? And one more question came in. You can be in any patient. And I would imagine if you create a perfect note for somebody with an eval and you're in your first patient tomorrow, you can create a macro right then and there in that patient. You do not need to be in a fake patient to do that. So that was one of the questions. We'll just give it one more minute before we move on.
All right, sounds good.
Any others, guys? And then we'll just move on. Jess, I'll let you share screens, but I do want you to just kind of walk through that billing stats report. We will do that quickly because we only have about 15 minutes left in the hour for this one to find the most commonly used ICD-9 codes. So we're going to want to do that. And after that, after we show you how to find, let's just say for the last year, the most commonly used ICD-9 codes, we'll give you a little bit of background information on what's happened on the back end, in addition to showing you how you would do the crosswalk for finding the equivalents to those ICD-9s for your ICD-10 codes. So let's do that. And you might want to go into a different patient to do this as well. No new questions. We'll do that right now. So we're in our demo account right now, everybody. So you're not going to see an enormous number of CPT codes, but we would like you guys, if you don't have a list of your most commonly used CPT codes. Diagnosis codes, thank you. In the future, I would appreciate it if you would correct me more quickly than that. If you don't have a list that you're really confident in, we're going to show you how to do that. If you go to Reports, Billing Analytics, and go into your billing stats configuration first, you want to just make sure that you have this type of report set up. So you're going to choose the diagnosis option. You can see that she's highlighted that. You're going to click the radio button next to it. You're then going to name it, just Diagnosis 1. We already have it in the demo account, so you don't need to actually create it, Jess.
Right.
So you would create that here. You would hit Save. After that, you head over to Reports, Billing Analytics, and you actually bring up your billing stats report. When that comes up, you're going to look to the bottom first. First, there's going to be a date range. Jess, would you do us the kindness of doing a couple control pluses? Perfect. So your date range, I recommend going back a full year. So just change that 15 to a 14. Go back the full year. You choose the Diagnosis 1 from this drop-down. And then to the right of that, the insurance only and the PIP only, leave those unchecked. You're then going to search the last year. It shouldn't take too long. The next thing you want to do is actually sort it by the 5th column there, which is claims. You'll see that with the number sign in the CLMS. And what that does is actually sorts it by the most prominent number of diagnosis claims. In this particular case, for our demo account, that's 739.4. So you'll want to actually jot down the top diagnosis codes that you've used last year for ICD-9 and make sure you have that list ready for when you actually start creating favorites. And those favorites are what we're going to show you how to do now. Those favorites will really represent the hierarchy that you'll set up for yourself to find these codes much more easily in the future. So, Jess, do you mind if I kind of throw the ball over to you, just because talking through it's probably a little easier while you're controlling the mouse?
Not a problem. All right. So when you come into the travel card for a patient, there's a number of different ways that you can access our ICD-10 widget. And I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit. Hopefully you guys can still see this. What I'm going to recommend is if you have a patient that you've already been seeing and they have ICD-9s from previous claims, go ahead and click on that ICD-10 button up at the top. It might be red if you're doing this after October 1st. Before October 1st, it's probably going to be yellow. That means that the patient has ICD-9 codes, or rather, it means that the patient does not have ICD-10 codes. But it also means that the payer is not requiring it yet. So you could still build this out with the ICD-9s and not have a problem. That's kind of what the yellow means. It means you haven't prepared for the future, but you're not hurting yourself. It's not going to be rejected if you bill it out with just those 9s. We actually have the fake payer, ICD-10 only, set up on our patient account. If I go ahead into the account and go into the primary tab, you'll see I've selected fake payer ICD-10 only. You guys can do the same thing. Just go ahead and type the word fake and click the plan name search right above it, and then select fake payer ICD-10 only and save the account. That'll just give you a kind of a heads, I'll let you play around with the system with how it will be for the payers starting on Thursday. But for right now, let's just go back into that ICD-10 button. What it's going to do is it's going to map those ICD-9s up at the top to ICD-10s. Now, we actually do have an expired ICD-9 up there, which is why you're only seeing 3 down at the bottom.
Good example, though.
Yeah, actually it is. So we haven't, we're not showing you the mapping for the ICD-9 that has been expired. You do need to select a valid ICD-9 code for us to map it over to ICD-10.
Yeah, but keep in mind that we do see a lot of providers using the diagnosis codes that are expired, for their cash patients, let's just say.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so those ICD-9s, they're going to be up at the top in orange. That kind of means that they have not been mapped, kind of like a warning. If you click on them, we will show you the CMS GEMS matched code. For those of you who don't know, GEMS stands for General Equivalence Mapping. CMS has provided us with mappings from ICD-9 to ICD-10. Basically, if you had been using this ICD-9 code, this is most likely the ICD-10 code that you're looking to use. You should still, of course, review it and make sure it makes sense. To select a ICD-10 code, this one actually just has the one mapped. Some of them you might see a couple different options in blue. The blue ones are the ones that we are suggesting. The ones above it, ICD-10 is in a hierarchical structure, and we do show you where the code we are suggesting comes from. So that's why you see those higher levels in gray. We're just showing you where that code came from, but the one in blue is the one that we are suggesting. If you go ahead and click on that blue link, you'll get another pop-up. The star icon is how you're going to favorite a code. And if you accidentally clicked it, just unclick it, or rather click it again, and it'll fill in that star, and it'll remove that code as a favorite. Hitting the plus sign basically selects that code. Depending on what page you're on, I'm on the diagnosis tab, so it immediately goes up to the top in order to be billed out on a claim. And then you'll see that the ICD-9 code turned blue. You got a check mark indicating that that one's good to go. That means that you have mapped that code to an ICD-10. And you can go ahead and do the same for all the other codes.
So hold on, go back into one of those quickly, because somebody just asked, what about the groups button? There were a few other questions in there, but it's just one of the ones that we should talk about first. It's the new button to the right of the star.
Yep. So how our system has been working for the past maybe 2 weeks, depending on what server you're on, we allowed you to star items, and those starred items would show up in the favorites tab. If you then had a search, and I'm just going to do one that I actually see in the description above, that you also starred, you could then, apparently didn't like that one, but it would filter your favorite codes based on what search you did. We've had a number of requests, actually, to be allowed to create your own groupings rather than only, filtering by the search words in the description for the code. We've had people request the ability to add it to their own grouping, kind of similar to like you have it on when you select the ICD-9 codes now from the assessment tab, where you can have your cervical and lumbar and segment and all those different tabs. We have just added on beta today, I think, the ability to create your own groups.
Yeah, that was definitely in response to a number of people throwing this suggestion our way.
Yes. So you are now able to create your own groupings of your favorites rather than just using those searches.
Right.
So you can, I don't have a group on this demo account right now, but if I wanted to add it to a group, any available groups would be listed. And then since I don't have one, I can always go into add new groups, give it a group name, and then I would be able to favorite it and move it to a specific group. That way, when I was looking for my favorites, instead of going into the favorite tab, I would select the ones that says groups. My favorite groups would be listed, and I could click it there to get all of my favorite codes that I put into that group.
All right, Jess, the questions are coming in fast and furious. And some excellent comments, by the way. We're getting a lot of positive feedback here on this, so that's probably more you than me. In this particular session, just to group a few things together, one of the comments about the codes, we've been told to stay away from unspecified. That's correct. So if you have a choice of laterality, right or left shoulder, and you go to choose the right or left shoulder right now, it will actually throw you an error message on certain areas that are very unspecific. So for now, it's CMS is recommending you just put in the shoulder one, and so that's going to be kind of challenging to figure out in the future. Obviously, it's fairly easy for anybody to determine whether or not it's the right or left shoulder, but as far as the code that's payable, right now we're told that through the CMS recommendations that only the unspecified shoulder one is. So I know that kind of flies in the face of some of the things that you've heard. So moving on to the next one, can you explain the group stars? I think we did that, Dr. Pete. Hopefully you got it. The next one is, can we determine the order of the groups? Jess, I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. I believe it's in alphanumerical order based on the code.
Yep, that's accurate. So you cannot determine the order of the groups right now. If we're talking about our radar, everybody, the way we have your super bill set up right now for your diagnosis codes allows you to determine the order of the groups. Eventually, when we figure out which codes are going to be paid and which ones aren't, and we know we're not going on the great ICD-10 diagnosis code search together, we are going to create that so that you can actually have those groups easily moved around and put in the order that you're going to use more often. So another question is, well, Dr. Michael asked if it does give you the choice or left or right. It absolutely does, Dr. Michael. So if we looked at any sort of shoulder, it would give you left or right for almost any of the diagnoses. It's just at this point, if you choose those, and Jess is right now bringing up one of those things. Oh, you see, here's a great one. The left or right all show up as payable. But if you only see the unspecified shoulder as payable, our recommendation right now is to go with the one that is being recommended by CMS as payable. So go with the blue ones. So Dr. Michael, I hope that answers your question. Dr. Rich asks the next question. I'm sorry, I'm moving very quickly right now, Jess, because we're nearly out of time.
Yeah.
So the next question is, which app is up to date? Right now, with all the latest features, your beta server is up to date the most. Jess, could you please show them how to get to that? Should they look up at their URL and not see the word beta? You can go up here and choose beta, or you can choose your production servers, very easily. The beta is going to be the one with all the latest and greatest on it.
Yeah, the beta has the groups. The other ones don't. The others, I think, were updated either last night or the night before. Just be aware that if we do have any critical issues, beta might go down for about 30 seconds while we reboot it to fix a critical issue. That is our experimental server.
Next question is, can you move the IC? Oh, no, we already answered that one. There's just another person with the same question. And then a lot more positive comments. I've made a few favorite groups. When I go to a specific code and want to favorite it, I don't have my group name next to choose from. So, well, one of the questions, and again, if anybody who has their hand up right now, please type in your question. I won't be able to respond to the individual hands. So, you know, for a few of you guys that have that, I noticed there are 3 people. Please type in your questions. There's one doctor, I wish we could SU as them right now, who's saying that those groups are not showing up in the group button. I ask you to open up a ticket on that and make sure you specify which server you're on, because we would very much love to look into that. We want to make sure this is working. We're putting out very new functionality very quickly here for Thursday, so everybody should be able to use this functionality on Thursday. If the group function's not available on all of the servers, that's okay. You can still favorite things, etc. And then he gives us more of an example. Yeah, Dr. Pete, we're going to have to work with you individually on that group issue. And Jess right now has been kind enough to show you how to go up to the help page and start to open up a help request.
Yep, if you guys are having any trouble, go ahead, open help request task, fill in your actual question. Please do not say call me. You are going to go to the end of the line. We are helping people as fast as we can, and if you actually tell us what you need help with, it gets you help faster. Attach a patient if you have an example. Hit send. You get the 3 options at the top. You want to come to my team, that is the help desk. Please, tickets are better than phone calls. We are constantly calling people about the tickets that are opening, so you are very unlikely to get us by calling.
Yeah, well, Dr. Pete already put in here that he will be opening up a ticket, and we're happy to help. So thank you for doing that. Last question of the day, as it is 3 o'clock, is there a specific order that the diagnosis codes need to be in different from ICD-9? No, not different from ICD-9. In fact, yes, the order of diagnosis codes still does matter, and you should follow the same direction you received for ordering ICD-10 codes as you received with ordering ICD-9 codes. So that is a big deal. It should not be ignored. Your most severe diagnosis code should go first by far. Guys, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate not only just showing up, but being so engaged with us. We try and put together content that will be as relevant to everyone as it possibly can be. We had well over 50 people on our webinar today. We will be doing another Q&A. Jess, we haven't had a chance to really talk about it because we've been so ICD-10 focused. I would imagine next week we're going to keep the content very vague and allow people to bring questions so that they can type them in and get answers. We can do a little bit maybe more of what we learned from ICD-10 in the first few days of it, Jess. We'll come with a little bit of that content, but then we'll keep it open.
Sounds good.
Okay. And so, guys, we are going to end the webinar now. Thank you again so much for showing up. We love having you as customers. We're here to support you, and would love to do all that we can. Open tickets to us, and we'll do our best to get them as quickly as possible. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.